Welcome to a special edition of John's Garage. Yes, I'm driving down the road on my way to my regular job, and I have a beanie on because it is cold here, which is kind of unusual in Louisiana. But this is the time of year that it would be if it's going to be. It's mid to late January here, whatever the date is. I'm not even sure, 23rd, 24th of January. And it's cold and rainy. So I apologize for the noise that you may hear on the roof of the truck or the rain hitting the windshield, but it was way quieter than in the shop. So that's why I decided to go this route. But we wanted to put out kind of a special quick episode to answer some of the questions and comments that we've gotten in the last few weeks about the direction we're taking with the Willys project. The two biggest concerns that we're getting, which are not surprising, are the engine choice and what we're doing to the chassis. So let's talk about the chassis first, since that's the latest episodes. People are concerned because we're actually boxing in the chassis. That's a deviation from stock, and I think they're starting to realize that we don't intend to do a stock restoration, and they are exactly right. And then the engine is another concern, and there's an episode coming up soon where we're going to be evaluating a couple of engine possibilities. I will tell you they're both V6 Chevys, and we're going to talk about that real quick as well. So let's go with the chassis first. Why are we boxing in the chassis? Because we're changing the engine. If you go back to when we first found the Jeep in the woods, Jeep, Willys, the first time I saw it, I knew that I had to keep the look that it currently had. Now, I don't mean the big chrome bumper on the front and the goofy front wheels with the white wall tires. I really mean the patina, the actual look that it has. So we are not doing a 100% restoration on the Willys. Number one reason, to keep the spirit of the vehicle. It has a long history, as you imagine, being a 41 model. They all have a long history, but this one really has a unique one, and we've covered it in previous episodes. But Cliff Note version, after it got done with its war duty, it was purchased by a guy named Mr. Peer that owned the junkyard. And I think he drove it on the street for about 5 years. We think that's true because it had license plates bolted on the back of it, which was kind of his practice. He would layer them up. Back then, you got a new plate every year, and from 52 to 57, there are Louisiana license plates on the back of it, or there were. We still have them. So, street driven for a while, which is super cool. And then it looks like it was turned into a tow truck and a push truck for his junkyard. That's where the big bumper comes in. It actually had a boom on the back at one point. There was a lot of cabling and pulley system for that we removed. And at that point in time, we think, we don't have 100% confirmation on this, that's when the Studebaker engine replaced the Go Devil. Pretty obvious why he had to do that, because if you're going to tow stuff around, you're going to need more power. And the Studebaker was at least twice the horsepower, and I don't know what the torque difference is, I'm sure it's significant. He was a pretty inventive guy because he created an adapter from scratch that made that original transmission mate to that Studebaker engine. So pretty cool guy. So anyway, and then after he used it for a tow truck for a while, we're not sure when, it got parked in the spot where we found it. We think it may have sat there 20 or 30 years. We're not sure. Long time. And we found it and rescued it. So when you think about the story, it is super important to us that the Jeep look, we mean the finish of it, that it look original. I know there are a lot of restored ones out there, and they are super cool, and I really love what people do with them, but I want this one to stand out as kind of as found. So that's kind of, goal number one. So that's not a nut and bolt restoration, obviously. And then as far as why we're changing the engine and boxing the chassis is because we're going to use it a lot. It's not going to be just a showpiece. We're going to drive it on the street. We'll take it to work. We're going to take it off-road. We're going to trail ride with it. And for all those reasons, a more modern engine is going to be paramount. I have a buddy of mine restoring a Willys right now. And he just went through a Go Devil engine, and it is super expensive if you really want to build one. You can find some of them running, get them a little cheaper. but for the most part, it is an expensive proposition. I'm probably going to have $150 to $200 in the engine that's going to be in this Willys. I cannot come close to building a Go Devil for that amount of money. Probably couldn't even get the gasket set for that much. So anyway, so that's why the chassis is getting boxed, because we're going to have a torquier motor in it, because the purpose of the Jeep is going to be fun and not original and not a restoration. So I hope that answers your questions. I hope it doesn't super frustrate a bunch of you. I know there'll be a few that are disappointed to hear that, but that's actually what we're trying to accomplish. But we are just so blown away that you would care enough to even comment and care enough to subscribe. So thank you for doing that. Share it with your friends if they think they would be interested in it. We'd love to have more people watching. And stay tuned, because a lot's going to happen here in the next couple of weeks. We have a big car show coming up here in Shreveport-Bossier called the World of Wheels. You may have one in your area too. But we plan to display the rolling chassis in that car show. And we got a lot of work to make that happen. The chassis is actually at the second sandblast right now, after all the welding was done and the new parts were grafted on there. So hopefully it'll be primed and painted, differentials primed and painted, all bolted on. It's kind of a lofty goal for the short amount of time we have, because we're only a few weeks away from the show. But anyway, stay tuned for that. We'll actually show you some footage from the car show with it displayed if we make that goal. But really, thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for your comments. And stay tuned for another edition of John's Garage.